Welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 117. Our topic today is going to be all about Lightroom. As a matter of fact, we're going to be asking, how do you learn Lightroom? Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hello, my name is Lee Beem.
I want to let you know before we actually get into our topic that the show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 117. And there are links to subscribe to the show and the podcast at photoflunky.com. Also, I've got a new free gift for you. It is an ebook, a guide really, on how to speed up Lightroom. It's called Lightroom Classic Performance Hacks, and you can find it for free at williambeem.com/LR hacks. So that's LRHACKS.
Yeah, not X.
No, not X, because I felt that, someone's going to put an X there and I'd have to put it in. So,
modern spelling.
Yeah, LRHACKS after the williambeem.com. And it's a free book. It's there for you. It kind of shows you not only how you can make Lightroom a little bit faster, but some of the things that you may be doing and some of the settings that you can change and some of the resources you can put in your system. It'll help you understand why Lightroom isn't performing as well. Even now, Adobe just came out with that update to enhance speed, and it did in some cases, but if you keep doing things the same way that you've been doing, it's going to slow down again. Today, we wanted to be talking about how do you learn Lightroom, and we're mostly talking about Lightroom Classic CC, which we never had to really specify that before. Lightroom used to be just Lightroom.
Yeah, I know. It's just, I don't care. All I do now is I say I'm using Lightroom on my laptop or I'm using Lightroom on my phone.
Okay, so we're talking about Lightroom on your laptop or desktop, not on your phone. But the question remains, is what is the best way to learn? And I think that's going to vary from one person to the next, but we kind of wanted to go down through a few different styles of learning. And Lee, this one I think is your favorite, is really to learn by doing.
Yeah, to me, there's no way to learn like just being thrown in and get started.
Now, one of the things that you told me before, I had never heard of anybody learning how to develop or use the develop module this way, but you would find presets.
Yeah.
And then by analyzing those, that's how you learned how to use the develop module.
Yeah, and that wasn't my complete, absolute beginner start point, but it was very early on. I'd say within the first few weeks of me getting Lightroom, I came across some Lightroom presets. They were free presets, and I took a look at some of the photos. I thought, well, they look nice, so I downloaded them. Had to use the guide to figure out how to install them because that was another beast on its own. It was actually quite simple, but I didn't know what to do. As soon as I applied the presets, that's where the learning curve started, because I'd take a picture and think, okay, for example, maybe this is a fall picture that I've taken and I'd use the fall preset. It kind of was doing the right thing in theory, but the photo just didn't look right. And so what I did was I installed these presets and I started even just using sample images that are sometimes provided when you get a tutorial. And I would try and find something that fitted the category. I'd start moving the sliders. So what I do, for example, I'd have presets. So I'd click on all the different things. I could click on the brush and then it shows you the little points where there's a brush. Sometimes there's nothing, sometimes there is. I'd click on the gradient. At the time, there wasn't one of the radial filters. Any dots that were there that said they had one of the little gradient settings in there, I'd click on it and then it shows you what's happening with the sliders. And I started playing with the sliders and it really gave me a good feel for what was happening. And these were not things I was trying to share or do anything with. This really was just for learning. I had a lot of fun doing it. It gave me a good understanding of how the sliders responded and what the effects were, and then also just figuring out how to use them in different situations.
So what you had really was a combination of analysis of what someone else has provided, and then just getting there with your hands on and moving the sliders around and saying, what happens when I do this?
Yeah, it really was. It's like, oh, if I click this, what happens? And then when something happens, like, okay, why? And then I'd have a look. And, I think it was really just kind of walking my way through it by playing. It was like almost childlike. I was learning by playing.
How much time do you think you spent doing that?
Quite a lot. And I didn't spend, I didn't kind of allocate time and say, okay, this is my learning time before I do anything. I'd be sitting around and have a photo and, you kind of selecting photos that you want to do something with. And sometimes there were things where, I'm not going to be able to do anything with them. Those were often really good photos to test out and see what you could do.
That helps us for the develop module, but when it comes to importing and organizing your photos, we've kind of touched this on a previous podcast episode, but you have a very different way of bringing your photos into Lightroom. Now, did that come about because of something that you learned or just the way you were doing it? And you said, I don't want to bring everything in all at once.
It was really both, because I started out, I bought some books, which are very, very good books. I also watched some outstanding tutorials. They were all very detailed. But as I was going through these things, I realized that I was spending a lot more time going through the process of getting things set up to organize them than I was actually spending working on the photos themselves. And I suppose I looked at it, and when I went back to analyze, I thought all these tutorials seem to address the viewer as though they, on the assumption that this person had some kind of business or some kind of big venture going on with their photos. And I thought, well, I just want to take some pictures for myself and know where to find them.
One of the things you're bringing up is actually kind of one of my, I hate to call it a pet peeve, but it's one of the things I've noticed about Lightroom training, not photography training, Lightroom training. They all seem to teach almost exactly the same method.
They do.
You import them from your card, you've got them in your catalog, and then you must assign them to a collection. And some people really don't even bother with keywords or tags. And I'm kind of the other way around.
Actually, that is the only thing I do. The only thing that I do is assign tags to everything.
On import.
On import, I assign tags to things. And sometimes my import includes things that have different tags. So I take all the kind of umbrella tags that apply to the whole set of photos. And then I'll go and select the batches where I select, within them, those ones would have specifically different tags. But that is the only thing I do for organizing.
See, I do the same thing, but tell me why you do it.
I do it because I actually save my things after Lightroom. I save them when I export. So my name has some kind of code in that I understand. It has like some abbreviation or an acronym or something. And then I have folders created, and I actually create folders on my external drive or wherever it is that I might have been saving them in the past. And that is where I export the photos once they're done, and that's how I find them. But the tags show up when you search for them on your laptop.
Yes, they do.
So, I don't need to go back into Lightroom to look for them. And honestly, I have to say, when I've done something in Lightroom, once I'm done and I export, I am done.
You don't use Lightroom to organize your photos.
I don't use it to organize the photos. I don't take that photo back or go back and look, to see what I did 2 or 3 years ago. Because seriously, 2 or 3 years ago, the photos I was taking are either not as good or not in line with what I'm doing now. So I have no need for anything. If I wanted it, I would have used it.
So basically, you're taking photos, you're using them in the moment, and then once you're done with them, you don't go back and use them at all.
I save the finished photo because that's what I wanted at the time, and that's it.
See, for me, it's very different. I used to use Aperture, which I loved much more than Lightroom.
I know.
But it's dead and gone, so I moved over to Lightroom, and it's very important for me to be able to find older photos. And just a few days ago, I got another email from someone requesting to license one of my photographs, and something I took, 2012 in Washington, D.C. And this is something that comes up not all the time, but I'd say a number of times a year that it's worth me looking, that they'll say, here's a photo of yours that I found. We're going to have a convention in Washington, D.C. I'd like to license this to use it. It could be for the banner. It could be for email invitations. It could be any number of things. And I thought, I need to make sure I know how to find that. And that's why on import, I needed to make sure that I've got all of these things tagged with Washington, D.C. The ones that are photos of the United States Capitol will have that tag on them. The Library of Congress will have that tag. And I don't bother with collections because imagine how many different collections you would have to build to be able to search for your photo in these different ways. To me, keywords and that kind of tagging system is much more flexible and faster to find something than working with collections. But yet when Lightroom is taught, they always say, put your photos in a collection. And you're supposed to remember, when did I take those photos?
And then they had all these codes for numbering your photos on export. And I looked and I thought, no, I really just use the file name after they let you have your custom name plus the file number. The file number is there so that I don't have to bother with renumbering it. Yeah. But the name itself that I assign, which is usually an acronym, and I know exactly where that goes, that kind of sorts it. So if I find something, if I see something that's gone to the desktop in a hurry, I know exactly which folder it needs to go to.
All right. The next item we want to bring up is learning by reading. And this could be either reading computer books, which you mentioned that you've had some very good books for learning it, and so do I. I've got a number of them, and I've got reviews of a few of them on the webpage. And what I'm looking at is, do I buy books these days, or do I go online and search for articles? And lately, it's been more of the latter. I think when you're learning at first to use a new program, a book is very helpful. It kind of gets you all the starting points and goes through. The downside of that is I find most of these books will kind of take you through the same path. Like I mentioned for Lightroom training, they all seem to teach the same thing, the same method. You use the collections and go through. There's nothing new or innovative that I find in Lightroom training.
My issue wasn't that there was anything wrong with the information. The information didn't work for my way of using Lightroom. And I'm the first one to admit that my needs are probably not in line with the average person who goes and spends on Lightroom. I'm going back to a time where we didn't have Creative Cloud, so I had to actually buy the license. And when you want to update, you have to buy the update, which was pretty much the same price as buying a new one. I was probably a little different in that I invested for something that was a very casual hobby. It was a passion, but I never intended to do anything with my photos other than for my own purpose. There was no drive to try and earn money or put them out publicly. I didn't even share them at the time.
All right. So we mentioned that you had your own way of learning by doing with the presets and how you would work with your import. And that was after reading the books. Did you need both of them, or did one have more impact than the other?
The books or the...
Did you need learning by doing as much or more or less than getting the books when you first started learning Lightroom?
I think the books give you a starting point. You open up something you've never seen before, and I had never used any kind of post-processing software before Lightroom. The books were really a good way to give me an overview for how the structure of the whole thing worked. All the other benefits really came from playing with stuff, but the books did play an important role because they kind of triggered things to let me know that things were there that I might not otherwise have found until much later.
There are a number of things I like about getting books for Lightroom. And some of them, like you said, are a description of what all the different tools, all the different panels will do for you. And some of that is reference material. There are a number of times I'll go back and I'll look at the books to see, all right, what does this do? What does that do? Because the help within the system is good, but it's nice to have a different point of view on how to use it.
Yeah.
And the other part is you'll find, for lack of a better word, recipes. In other words, you say, here's how you use these in order to get some specific kind of look for your photo, or if you're doing portrait, if you're doing landscape or travel photography, you're going to use the same tool in a different way.
Yep. Like even something like the order of where you go in the develop module, start with this, then start with that. That kind of gave me a good sense to it. I didn't, honestly, when I started doing that, I was following instructions. I didn't understand why I was doing it. Now I do. I understand that there are benefits to it. I also understand that it's not going to kill your photo, but there are other advantages to, working in a certain sequence.
I think you bring up a good point. It's like when you start off doing this stuff, you might not understand why. And you need to have that curious mind and say, okay, I moved the slider here and I got the result that you were talking about, but why?
It's almost, I guess I jokingly refer to it as the rebel in me, but somebody will tell me to do something. And my first thing is, why? If it isn't glaringly obvious, I want to know why. I want to know that I'm not wasting my time doing something, like to what end? And I always ask why, because I need to understand it, not because I'm challenging the instruction.
No, I understand that. And that's the thing with, I guess with most of these, you don't really get a chance to ask why unless you have some kind of a live training session. There's also opportunity for you to speak to the instructor, because if you're going to a seminar or workshop, there's not that much opportunity. If you're in a room with 300 or 400 other people, everybody doesn't get to ask a question. There's usually a Q&A part.
I found a way to ask why with the book, even though the author couldn't answer. They tell you to do something, I think why. And if I couldn't find the answer, I'd do what they told me not to do and see if there were any consequences. And I mean, that is just the way to, if you want to learn, you can find things out. I also lost, I had to get somebody to come and help me restore everything in Lightroom, because I said why and about moving stuff around. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find any answers why not, so I tried it. And basically Lightroom didn't work and nothing was anywhere where I thought it was, and I could not find it. The backup troops had to come in. So now I understand when someone says, before you do this, do that, do that, do that, okay, I understand why. I don't need to understand how it works. I just know that it's important to follow these instructions.
You know, that actually brings up another thing that I find missing from a lot of Lightroom training, no matter what format it's in. They'll teach you how to back up the catalog because that's built into the tool. They don't teach you much about backing up your photos, and just in case disaster strikes, that you haven't lost everything.
Well, here's what happened. I had a laptop that was kind of getting old and starting to run a bit slow. And I wanted all my Lightroom stuff. I didn't want it on the main hard drive. I wanted the things to be on the other hard drive. So I figured I'd just move it. That didn't work out so well. But the trouble is, once it was moved, the one that was moved didn't work. And there was nothing there where it was supposed to be in the blank spot where it taken it out. So I didn't know how to get it back and get it going again. So yeah, basically I actually lost everything. I had to go back and reload. I had to uninstall, reload Lightroom because there was no login for that one. I had to put in my license number and everything. And I had nothing. So all the stuff that I did up until that point was gone forever. And I think something similar happened, except not through such a stupid thing. When I got a new laptop after that, I did not know how to move my stuff from the catalogs on the old computer onto the new one. So when I started, I just eventually accepted whatever's on the old thing is gone forever.
You know what? I think I need to come up with training on how to move your Lightroom collection or, set up from one computer to another.
I can guarantee you, I'm not the only person. I'm not stupid, but nobody tells you, usually when you move files, it's not that difficult to move files and folders and things. So Lightroom doesn't say, oh, by the way, this is different.
You're right. It's not something that's commonly taught. And I know there are videos on YouTube out there about this, but
you have to know to look for them.
You have to know to look for them. You have to think about this problem before it burns you.
And that's where the book is good, because the book raises questions, even if it doesn't give you the answers or if it doesn't make sense. It raises questions where you can dig in if you need to. It kind of draws things to your attention. Nothing was drawn to my attention. I did not know that this was going to be an issue.
Okay, now let's bring up the next one, which is probably not going to be one of the top ones, and that is to learn by audio. And I'm particularly thinking about podcasts, kind of like what we're talking about here. Does anybody learn about Lightroom from a podcast?
I think you can learn things, just like I said now, you hear about mistakes. That's almost, to me, audio is just like learning from a book, assuming except that you don't have control over going through the chapters, but you might find a topic in there, or I think particularly if you're brand new to it, just go and soak up whatever's around.
One of the things I think audio is not very good at tutorials. So, for example, if I tell you, all right, move this slider over to number 46 and then move the next slider down to -12, that's not really a good use of an audio medium. But I think discussions kind of like the one we're having here, they get you to think about things that, as you said, you may not even know to ask the question.
Yeah.
Or even if we're talking about something that doesn't apply to you, we may stumble across something that triggers in your mind some, backups. I need to learn how to go back up my photos and move them from one computer to another.
And you can get a question in, because if anything we say doesn't make sense, you just kind of contact William with the email on the podcast at the bottom.
Yeah.
And he'll help you. Don't contact me because I've got a weird way of doing things, but William will answer all the questions because we really want you to benefit.
Well, if you want to reach out to me, the easiest way to do it is go to williambeem.com and williambeem.com/contact. And there's a form there. So that way you can fill out whatever you want to. It'll email it right off to me and I'll answer you back. And yes, I do answer the questions and email. I read everything that comes in. And if there's an answer deserving, I'd certainly respond to that. Usually I'll respond anyways, because if nothing else, I think it's polite.
Acknowledge it. Yep.
Yeah. I don't want someone to send me something and then wonder, did you ever get that?
You'll hear back.
With audio, I think it's more about concepts than it is about tutorials and tips. There are a number of photography podcasts out there besides ours. I think some of them might give you some ideas on photography, on composition. I don't know how many of them are actually discussing Lightroom. It's not generally something that we talk about an awful lot, because I think audio is not necessarily the best medium for a tutorial, but I think it is good for concepts.
Yes, it is.
This one is going to be my favorite. It is learning by video.
Yeah, that's my second favorite.
Your second favorite. So your favorite is what? Learning by doing?
Yeah. I like to figure things. I like to actually feel my way through things. And
I have been a subscriber for Kelby One for more years than I can remember. And if you're interested in being a subscriber to Kelby One, I can save you $20 on the membership. Just go to williambeem.com/Kelby One. And then I think there's a button that says start today, and you'll see your discount applied right away. But what I like about video is you can see it as it happens. There's usually a very good discussion of what the problem is and what they're trying to teach you, and also a number of methods that you can try. And the same thing is, I think, is true with books. You can just get a book like I think Scott Kelby's got a portrait retouching book that, well, I know he does because I've really enjoyed that book. And there are a number of methods in there, but it takes a lot longer to go through those methods in a book than it does to watch him teach it on video.
It does, but do you know, when I was very new to photography, the book was great because I could walk around with the book and with my camera. I guess if you're doing post-processing, you're at your computer, so it doesn't matter. You can flip through tabs. But I like to stay with what I'm doing, and I could refer to the book, and I could walk around and see, okay, set up your tripod. So I'd set up my tripod, and I'd literally go through the steps. I mean, that is how I learned to go onto how I learned manual exposure, was walking around an entire day with my camera, my tripod, and a book. That's all I had.
I can do that now with my iPad.
Yeah, well, the iPads were great for like plumbing in a washing machine or something with a YouTube video and that kind of thing. But yeah, I like my books.
I think there's definitely room for all of them. And I'm still buying photography books. It's nice to go back and review specific sections because when I'm learning, I'm going through them first. I'm probably skimming it the first time through. And then I want to figure out, okay, which are the lessons here that I want to go apply? And then that's when I'll have the book sitting right back here with me. Or the same thing with a video. I will sit not on the computer and watching my Kelby One videos or my YouTube videos, whichever it may be. I'm watching on the Apple TV in the living room on the big screen because I just want to soak it all in first. And then I want to go back. I'll have it on the computer next to what I'm trying to do something. The nice part about that also is because I don't always remember all the techniques that I've learned maybe a few years ago. Sometimes I need a refresher.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, do I need to change the blend mode on this layer or that layer? And let me watch the video a few seconds later and I'm done.
Yeah.
I can see it. I can hear it. And I can rewind it.
You can engage with it.
Yeah.
And control it.
Now, the last one that's going to be interactive would be live training. And there's a couple ways that I've done this. Some have been at workshops, which is typically with a small group of people. So you can ask questions back and forth with an instructor. And others have been at seminars or conferences where it's generally a presentation. And even at those, they will entertain questions.
Yeah.
And sometimes, but it's not while they're doing the presentation. You don't stop them at a conference and say, explain that, or at least I wouldn't. Some people, I guess, have.
Yeah.
But you haven't really gone through any workshops or live training at all.
To me, I have no interest in doing, I don't want to say no interest, but it would need to be something very, very specific. And I tell you what, it's just like what you explained, you getting a live demonstration. I can get that on a video and I can control it and take my time and my own pace. And that's the important thing. Sometimes I take a long time to go through something because I have other subsidiary questions that branch off of the first one, and I can figure things out on my own. I do not dismiss the merit of it, and I understand the value in it. But for me, it is not my first choice, and that's why I've just never had any, I've never made any effort.
Well, here's the difference between live training and all the other things that we've mentioned. As you said, with video or reading, any of those other previous ones, you can go back and do it over and over again. You've got it in your hand, you've got control over your time. When you go to live training, it eliminates all of the distractions. You focus and pay attention only to the training. You don't have someone coming along asking you questions or interrupting you while you're in the training. You're isolated and focused on what you're trying to learn. And I found that to be a very effective way of getting concepts in through your head.
Sure, I understand that.
So,
and there are other advantages to your workshop as well. I'm just saying that it isn't on the top of my list. And I know for some people, this comes back to we all learn differently.
We do. And there are definitely preferences. And I think, you're always just going to have to do some learning by doing. But whether you prefer reading, audio, or video, that's the nice part is that there are so many different ways to learn and different aspects of learning Lightroom that come in. Like I said, with audio, it's really going to be the concepts.
Yeah.
I think that it's nice to have a number of different ways to learn. And depending on who you are and how you learn, there's plenty of opportunities out there for everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. Show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 117. And also, I wanted to mention that we've got some free Lightroom portrait brushes available at williambeem.com/free brushes. And those will help you enhance eyes, skin, and teeth. Also, make sure you visit williambeam.com/iTunes. That'll take you to our page on iTunes. We would love it if you'd give us a review. Let us know what you think. And you can find us also on Google Play Music, Blueberry, and Stitcher Radio. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week.